All right, college football and stuff here. It is week 8 of the 2021 college football season. Here's my picks. All right, kind of a down week for college football, but we still got some good games here. First up, I'm going to be talking about Kansas State at Texas Tech. An even game, no favorite. I think this will be a pretty interesting game, although I do think there's a chance that K-State could run away with this game. Um, I so my view on Kansas State, I've always liked Kansas State. I think they're a fun team to watch. I think uh, they're one of those teams that's sort of overlooked a lot of times. And really, I think they're, especially with how Arkansas is playing this year, I think they're sort of the Arkansas of the Big 12. They're not an elite team. They don't have elite talent, uh, but they play good, clean football. Uh, they're competent on both sides of the ball. Um, they just play good, smart football most of the time. I like that. I like watching that. Texas Tech this year has been interesting. Uh, they have they've had their usual struggles on defense. The most surprising thing to me about them is they have not been able to keep up the offensive production that they have been known for in previous years. I think that's going to be a tough ask for them against a K-State team that is just going to play a decent game. They're not going to give up a bunch of easy scores, uh, and they're going to be able to have consistent drives. I think. I don't think Texas Tech has the defense to shut down K-State's offense completely, and I think K-State has enough defense that Texas Tech isn't going to be able to run the score up. Um, I think K-State is the more balanced team. I think K-State gets a pretty decent win here, and I really think that they should be a favorite in this game. I'm surprised I'm not having to take them minus some points, but in an even game, I mean, even on the road, it's an early morning game. Maybe you see some weirdness there. You might see a slow start from both of these teams, but yeah, I think K-State gets the win. I think they get a pretty decent win. Give me K-State there. Next up, Wisconsin at Purdue. Wisconsin, a 3-point favorite. This is an interesting game to me because I'm not sure how much to look into that Purdue win over Iowa last week. I talked about it um, in my Iowa versus Penn State game a few weeks ago. I thought Iowa should have gotten a pretty big, easy win over Penn State because I am not sold on Penn State. Now, I'm an Auburn fan, but I will be one of the first Auburn fans to tell you that Auburn has not played great, especially in some of those early games against the Penn State, for example. I think an elite team, and we saw it with Georgia, should be able to beat this Auburn team fairly convincingly. Penn State could not do it. And I thought Iowa should have done better against Penn State than they did. And I think Purdue really exposed them last week. Uh, that was, I think, to a lot of people, were super, super surprised by that. I was still surprised by that game. I thought Iowa should have won that game. I was especially surprised by how many points Purdue was able to score. But really, with how easily Penn State moved the ball against Iowa in the game the week before that, um, I don't think I was as surprised as a lot of people were that Iowa lost that game because I think after that Penn State that close game with Penn State where they had to make a comeback win, I really did not think that Iowa was an elite team, and they certainly weren't a top 5 team. And now Iowa's still a good team. I'm not here to hate on Iowa and say that they're terrible. They're not terrible. They're just not a top 5 team. I mean, they're I would say I was around a 10 to 15 range if we really were honest with ourselves and said, okay, of the best teams in the country, if they played on a neutral field, who would win? I think Iowa beats most ranked teams, but I think there are definitely teams in the top 10 who I would definitely favor over Iowa. But this is about Purdue and Wisconsin. And although uh, I think Wisconsin, I'm not really surprised that Wisconsin is the favorite here, but I just don't know if this is a good matchup for them. We'll really have to see if Purdue has like a letdown game after that big win against Iowa. But Wisconsin plays a very similar style of game. They want to win the game the same way that Iowa does. They want their defense to go out there and get stops, get turnovers, and can't really trust their offense to do much. And Iowa has a better offense than Wisconsin. I really, really do not trust Wisconsin's offense. Um, Now it's going to come down to, has Wisconsin figured anything out? Are they able to finish drives? Can their defense get them a couple of turnovers? I think that's what Wisconsin is going to need to win this game. I think if Wisconsin wins, it's a super low scoring game. I think if points get scored in this game, Wisconsin loses it. So yeah, Wisconsin's got to be hoping for a 13-10 type win. With that said, I can't lay points with Wisconsin here. Even though it's only 3, I think about a 3-point win is as good as Wisconsin can hope for, unless something really crazy happens, unless they're getting a bunch of turnovers, a bunch of short fields. I've got to take Purdue plus the points here. Now, I think there's a very good chance that Wisconsin wins this game. I just don't think there's any way they win it by a bunch. I think Purdue keeps it close enough. I'm going to take Purdue plus 3, and I think that's either the right pick or it's going to be a push. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, moving on to Oklahoma State at Iowa State. I think this is going to be one of the best games of the weekend. Iowa State has had a disappointing season compared to what people were expecting of them preseason. And really, if you look at the games they've played, they've really lost themselves those games. Or I say that, the opposing teams made good plays, got turnovers. But box score wise, stats wise, Iowa State has been the better team in those 2 games they lost, the game against Iowa and the game against Baylor. Now, Oklahoma State coming in off a really nice win on the road against a ranked Texas team and coming in undefeated. I think Oklahoma State is a good team. Now, Iowa State, a 7-point favorite at home. Generally, they give 3 points for a home team here is like home field advantage. So Vegas really does think on a neutral field this is a fairly close game, a 3 or 4-point game in Iowa State's favor. I do think that's about right here. I think this ends up being a close game. I think Iowa State should be the better team. Can they limit these bad mistakes they've made in their losses? If they can keep from turning the ball over, Iowa State should get a win. And I do think Iowa State gets the win in this game. Now, Oklahoma State has a pretty good defense. You look at their games, all of their games pretty much have been close games. Their biggest win was that win last week against Texas. Otherwise, these games have all been really close. And I think that they're going to keep this game close as well. I don't think Iowa State runs away with this one. Uh, I do think so. I think Iowa State gets the win. I think it ends up being closer game. I think it's a less than a touchdown game. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State plus the points in this one. All right, Oregon at UCLA. UCLA a 2-point favorite. Now, two teams that had some nice wins early on in the season, and since then some really nice non-conference wins as well, and have kind of had some letdown games since then. UCLA getting blown out by Arizona State, and then of course losing that close game to Fresno State, and Oregon winning, but really not looking good. That Cal game with Oregon last week really bothered me. Oregon should not have been struggling with what is kind of a not great this year Cal team as much as they did last week. And it's really Oregon's issues on offense that have me worried for them. I don't know what the solution is there, but they did not look good on offense last week. And I really think it's an issue of if someone can stop them from running the ball, I don't think they have the tools right now on this team to get it done. I want to blame their quarterback. I think maybe he got too much hype, had too much expectation of him. But yeah, this season at least, I don't think Oregon has the passing offense to win games if someone can really shut down their run. I think UCLA is going to be able to score some points. It's at UCLA. We'll see if Oregon can get any offense going. I don't think UCLA has an elite defense. They have a decent defense. So I like Oregon. I think Oregon is one of my favorite teams. They're the Pac-12 team I usually root for. I don't know if I like this matchup for them, though. I think UCLA is going to be able to score some points. I'm hoping that Oregon can make it a fun, close game, but I think there's a chance here if Oregon struggles on offense like they did against Cal. I think UCLA has an offense that can really blow this game out. So I'm hoping for a close game. I'm taking UCLA minus the 2 points, though, and I think there's a chance that UCLA could run away with this one. Okay, LSU at Ole Miss. Ole Miss a 9-point favorite. This is going to be an interesting game. So it's going to be an emotional game for LSU. Coming off a big win against Florida. Orgeron confirmed to be out at the end of the season. They're letting him finish the season. Now, the players seem to really like Orgeron. I think he's a player's coach. The players like him. They have his back. How does this affect them? Usually in these kinds of situations, you see one of two things. Either the team comes out really hyped up to play for their coach, or the distractions from all this, the emotions of it, have them distracted, and they don't play as good of a game. I don't know what we're going to see from LSU in this game. Do we see the LSU team that ran the ball really well against Florida? Or do we see the LSU team that barely scraped a win over Mississippi State? I don't know. LSU needs to be able to run the ball. I'm hoping that they learned that last week, or I'm hoping for LSU fans anyway, that they figured out that they need to be able to run the ball, and they have a pretty good running back in that freshman. Now, I don't know how much we can really look into the Florida win. That was a game that I think personally was more lost by Florida than it was won by LSU. Florida turnovers really gave LSU the game there. I think Ole Miss isn't going to make those same mistakes. Now, on the other side for Ole Miss, they're coming off kind of a tough stretch. They haven't won an SEC game by a touchdown or more yet this season. So giving them 9 points is kind of tough. But that said, I do think LSU is able to score some points. I think they take care of the football. Matt Corral has not been throwing interceptions like he did last year. He's playing much better. Ole Miss does a good job of mixing the run and the pass. They really like running the ball on early downs. They've had success there. I think Ole Miss is able to score some points. I don't think they give the easy points to LSU from short fields or defensive scores like Florida did. I'm going to take Ole Miss to get their first big win against the SEC of the season. I'm taking them minus the 9 points. I think there is a very good chance this could turn into a blowout similar to how Kentucky just blew LSU away. Now, Ole Miss doesn't have anywhere near as good of a defense as Kentucky does, but I think Ole Miss is basically going to be able to name their score in this game. So, yeah, Ole Miss minus the 9 points. Clemson at Pitt. Pittsburgh, a 3-point favorite over Clemson. Crazy to think that Clemson would be an underdog at Pitt. Now, not crazy if you've watched games this season, but based on how I thought and pretty much everyone thought Clemson would be, that is really, really just sort of nuts. Never would have believed that coming into the season. It is a good team, though. Okay, they have generally in the ACC played well on defense. They've been a team that can score points, and the past few years, they have had their strength has been their defensive line. They've had a really good defensive line. That is bad news for Clemson, whose biggest issue, I think, is their offensive line. I think this can be a tough game for Clemson. They have not been able to score points. I think Pitt's defense is going to be good enough to really, really limit them scoring points. Now, Clemson has a good defense. Clemson has a really, really talented team. Their issue is not talent, at least overall talent. They've got some issues on the offensive line. People have talked about this a ton. People are blaming Dabo Swinney not wanting to take advantage of the transfer portal. And I don't know. I think there's a definite idea that might be that could be something that can keep a team from being elite. But Clemson has recruited really well. I think it's got like a team that recruits at Clemson's level, even with getting no one out of the transfer portal, should not be struggling the way they have been against their schedule. I don't think you can blame not utilizing the transfer portal. I think that is the kind of thing that is the difference between a top 10 team and a top 5 team, but it's not the difference between a top 10 team and an unranked team. Clemson should be better than they are. I think so. Clemson's defense is going to limit Pitt in this game. I think Pitt still gets enough done. They have a good enough defense that Clemson is not going to be able to score a bunch of points. I think Pitt gets the win. I think they win by 3 or more. Give me Pitt with what is going to be a good win for them. Not as marquee of a win as it would have been if you told people in the offseason that we're going to be beating Clemson at home. I don't think you're going to see field stormed, but who knows? But yeah, give me Pitt minus the 3 points there. All right, last up, USC at Notre Dame. Notre Dame a 6.5-point favorite. I think the spread is way off on this one. USC has not impressed me this season. I think they're a team that's struggling. They're making a long trip out east to play this game, and I think Notre Dame is a team that is built well to beat USC, even if USC was playing well. So Notre Dame has been running the ball well. USC has struggled to stop the run. And Notre Dame is a team that has looked better and better. It has a good defense. I think they're going to get the win. I think it's an easy win for Notre Dame, and I think it could be a huge blowout if Notre Dame has figured out their quarterback. So they've been rotating guys in and out, playing, I think, 3 different quarterbacks in the past few games. If they have someone settled, if they have that position figured out, I think this is a really, really tough game for USC. But even without that, I think Notre Dame can get the cover. I think they can mostly just run the ball and easily win this game. Yeah, I think the spread here is way off. Give me Notre Dame minus the 6.5, and I think there's a good chance Notre Dame wins this double-digit points easy. All right, that's it for my picks this week. Let me know in the comments if you think I got any of these wrong. Let me know what your picks are. If you have anything, any other games you want to know my opinion on, leave a comment. I'll let you know. And otherwise, see you next time.